Hello, my name is Peter Milton and I am the developer of TimeChainage. This video is part of a series where I show you some of the more common features of TimeChainage, and today we will look at the planned form. The planned form is where we add our planned activities. Why am I referring to planned activities as opposed to just activities? In TimeChainage we make a distinction between planned and actual activities. They are treated as two separate entities and are entered using different forms. Think of planned activities as those needed to produce the planned schedule, similar to activities in Primavera P6 or MS Project before you add any progress. This will be a two-part video as there is a lot to cover. We have a project open that is set up ready for adding some planned activities. I will briefly discuss the ideal workflow and what should be done prior to adding tasks in your schedule. The recommended workflow is to complete the project details and preferences, then add project calendars, followed by creating a work breakdown structure. Only then would you start adding activities. You use the project form to add the project details and preferences. You add calendars in the calendars form. The WBS form is where you create the work breakdown structure. Your workflow doesn't have to match this exactly, but TimeChainage has some time-saving features and they are maximised when you create your schedules this way. There are videos on each of these stages and also a series of 3 videos explaining how to create your first schedule. You may wish to watch them if this doesn't make a lot of sense to you. This tutorial though is about the planned form, so let's get stuck into that. As I said earlier, we add planned activities in the planned form, and we access it either from the data menu and selecting planned, or else there is a button on the toolbar. We will use this method. The planned form is split into 4 key areas. At the top is a toolbar. Under that is the input table where you add planned activities. I will adjust the form size to show all of the columns. At the bottom is the details panel, and then there is also a status bar. The toolbar contains various controls and filters. The input table has no activities in it at the moment, but we will be adding some in this tutorial. I will also explain what the various columns are for. The details panel repeats the information in the table for any selected activity. It also has some additional information that is not in the table. You can enter data in either the table or the details panel. Let's add our first activity. When you start a new project file, there will be one blank row in the plan table. Click anywhere on it to add the first activity. Several default values are entered. Any fields that are still blank are not required to have data entered. Those that are filled in do need entries. However, some of the fields are auto-calculated and you cannot enter anything in those. The fields from length to finish date are calculated fields, along with the free and total float fields. There is one calculated field that you can edit, and that is the chainage duration. We will talk about this in a bit. The main way in which TimeChainage treats linear activities differently from a typical bar chart application is that instead of entering a duration for the activity, you enter a start and finish location and a production rate. TimeChainage will then calculate the length of the activity and its duration. However, as I alluded to earlier, you can enter a duration for the activity instead of the production rate, and then TimeChainage will calculate the rate. For non-linear activities, where you want to show the task as a box or vertical line, there is a field called point duration, and this will represent the duration of the activity. For a box or vertical line, you would also enter 0 for the production rate. Let's finish this first activity, and let's say it is a linear task, one that has repetitive actions over a distance. I will give it a name in the description field. Let's call it excavate trench A to B. By default, this description will be shown on the chart, although you can hide it or show something different. In the table, the very left-hand column is called Ref. This is the automated activity reference number and will always start at 1 and increase sequentially. The next column is the WBS, and in the table is shown as a number. This is the WBS reference ID, which can be found in the WBS form. A number is not particularly helpful, but the details panel shows the WBS description, and you can select the value you want from there. We will choose water mains. Note that the calendar has changed to the 5-day week with site holidays. Each WBS value will have a default calendar allocated to it, and when you select a WBS value here, it brings in that calendar. We can, however, if we wish, override the WBS calendar by selecting another one from the selection box here in the details panel. We will keep this calendar, and we can see the calendar ID in the table. Back in the table, after the description, there is a Chainage From field and Chainage To field. These are for the locations of the start and end of the activity. In this case, the location of points A and B. As these are distance fields, the units will be whatever we want to use for distance. In our case, it will be linear meters. I will enter a value of 55 meters for Chainage From and 150 meters for Chainage To. You will notice there are 3 decimal places shown. In Project Preferences, you select the number of decimal places shown for distances, durations and production rates. This does not affect the precision of the calculations though. The next field is the production rate, and the units are distance units per day. So in our case it will be meters per day, and I will enter 20 meters per day. The next column is time risk allowance. Adding any time here will increase the duration of the activity by the same amount and decrease the effective production rate. I will leave it at 0 days. The point duration column will add time at all locations along the activity. I will demonstrate this shortly, but for now I will leave it at 0 duration. If I press the return button now, the activity length, chainage duration, overall duration and average production rate fields are calculated. The status bar also gets partially updated. You will see that the overall duration is shown as 4.8 days. That is because the length of the task is 95 meters and the production rate is 20 meters per day. Now the actual duration is 4.75 days, but in the project preferences we specify that durations be shown to 1 decimal place, so the displayed value is rounded to 4.8 days. The program has not been scheduled, as you can see by the start and finish dates. They have not been calculated yet. To do that, we must press the schedule button on the toolbar or press F9 on the keyboard. However, before we do that, we will specify when the task will start. As this is the first activity, we cannot add any predecessors, so we have 2 options. Do nothing, and the activity will start on the project start date as entered in the project form, or else we can add a start constraint. Let's do that. In the details panel, we open the constraint type selection box and choose the type we want. I will select start on or after. Then in the date box underneath, we enter the date we want to use. You can type the date directly into the box, or else open the calendar and navigate to the date you want. Let's choose the 2nd of June 2025. The constraint date is shown in the table and constraint type ID is 3. Let's schedule the program. We press the schedule button on the toolbar, or we could press F9 on the keyboard. The start and finish dates now look sensible. Let's take a look at the chart. To exit the plan form, we click on the close button in the toolbar. With a linear activity such as this, trench excavation works, a diagonal line is produced. The horizontal axis represents distance and the vertical axis represents time. And I have it set so that increasing time goes down. The slope of the line indicates the production rate. The more shallow the slope, the greater the production rate. Also note that by default, the activity description is shown at the start of the line and is rotated to match the slope of the line. Those grey bars, by the way, are showing the non-work periods, the weekends and site holidays as defined in the calendar we are using. Let's return to the plan form by clicking on the button in the toolbar. Let's add some time risk allowance to our activity. Let's say 1 day. When we press return, we can see that the overall duration is now 5.8 days, an increase of 1 day, and the average production rate is now 16.52 meters per day. The production rate is displayed with 2 decimal places because I specified that in the project preferences. I will put the TRA back to 0. Let's add another activity. This time I will show you a diagonal box. To add a task, you can click anywhere on the last row and then add the down arrow on your keyboard, or else press the Add button on the toolbar. Let's press the Add button on the toolbar. The new activity will assume you want to use the same WBS as previously, but you can of course change it if you want. We will leave it as water mains. For the description, we will call it Place Bedding and Pipework. We will put the same chainages as before, 55 meters for chainage from, and 150 meters for chainage to. The production rate will be 30 meters a day. For this task, I expect the work to take half a day at any location, so I enter 0.5 days in the point duration field. This activity is dependent on the trench work, so I will make that a predecessor. To do that, I just enter the reference ID in the predecessor column. The task ID is 1, so I enter 1 into the predecessor column. A default relationship and lag are given. There are 3 relationship types in TimeChainage, which can be seen if we open the predecessor tab in the details panel. They are FS, finish to start, SS, start to start, and BS, box finish to start. And box finish to start is the default relationship. You will recognize the finish to start and start to start relationships, but the box finish to start will be new to you. I will explain this relationship when we add the next activity. We will change the relationship to start by entering SS in the predecessor field, and we will add a lag of 2 days. Let's schedule the program and see how the new task looks on the chart. Adding a point duration has turned a diagonal line into a diagonal box. Notice how the weekend stretches the box. Let's return to the plan form and add some more activities. I want to show you the different activity types possible in TimeChainage. First, we will add a new activity, this time by pressing on the down arrow button on my keyboard. This activity will be a horizontal line with 0 duration. We can use this as a kind of milestone. In the description field, we will enter ready for backfill. The WBS will be planned dates. Chainage from will be 55 meters. And chainage to will be 150 meters. The production rate will be 0. And we will leave TRA and point duration at 0. The predecessor will be activity 2. We have a default relationship of box finish to start, and that is the one we actually want. But first, let's see what a finish to start relationship looks like. I'll change it to FS. We will schedule and take a look at the chart. The ready for backfill line is horizontal because we had a production rate of 0, and it occurs when the top diagonal of bedding and pipework completes. This is due to the finish to start relationship. What we actually want in this case is for the milestone to occur when the predecessor is fully complete. That is what the box finish to start relationship is for. We'll go back and change the relationship. We will enter BS, then schedule and view the chart again. Now the milestone occurs once the predecessor is fully complete. Let's go back into the plan form and add a vertical line activity. A vertical line can be used to represent a piece of work with a small footprint, for example constructing a manhole. You can adjust the thickness of the line to suit the chart dimensions. We will add a new activity by clicking the Add button. We will call this manhole S11. We will select a WBS value of manholes. To create a vertical line, both the start and end chainages should be the same, and a positive point duration is required. We will enter 60 meters for both chainages. The production rate will be 0. The point duration will be 5 days. The predecessor will be task 1, and we will leave the default relationship type as box finish to start. Before we view the chart again, we will add a box activity. A box is suitable for any nonlinear task and is made by having a length and a point duration, but a 0 production rate. We will add a task and call it Kiosk Base Slab. The WBS will be kiosks. The start chainage will be at 170 and the end chainage will be 175 meters. The production rate will be 0 and the point duration will be 4 days. The predecessor will be task 2, and let's give it a start to start relationship by entering SS. We will add one final task, and this will be a diamond shape. A diamond can be used for events that have no significant time and have no significant size. First, we add an activity by clicking on the Add button. We will call it Takedown Gate. The WBS will be Pre-Construction Works. The start chainage will be 105 and the end chainage will also be 105. The production rate will be 0 and the point duration will be 0. The predecessor will be 1 and with a relationship of start to start. We will press the Schedule button and close the plan form by clicking on the Close button on the toolbar. We now have a vertical line for the manhole construction, a box for the kiosk base slab, and a diamond for the gate removal. These are the main activity types possible with TimeChainage. Well, I think that's enough for today. In the next video, we will look at the plan form in more detail, including the fields we didn't discuss today, the toolbar functions, filtering and sorting. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you found this video helpful. TimeChainage, adding an extra dimension to your schedules.